What we endeavor to do, we whistleblowers and troublemakers out here in the new media, putting a mirror up to who these people are and shining a light on the corruption. I bought a dog whistle factory, and I'm giving you dog whistles. And we're going to listen to every word that comes out of your mouth, and we're going to hold you to the same standard that you hold to us, which is an impossible one, and you're going to have a hell of a time.
Always the agitator, always in your face. Say what you will of one Andrew Breitbart. Always interesting, never dull.
The media says Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies. Put your reputation on the line here. One provable lie.
And you're asking me about journalism? You've got to be kidding me, buddy.
He loved ginning up liberals. I mean, he played this jujitsu with them.
You will be the last to find out you can do.
Media is everything.
He pulled the curtain back, he exposed it, and he wouldn't relent, he wouldn't let it go if he kept bringing it back to the media.
They think that we should sit down and shut up, and that is ending right now.
Every story is a media story in American politics.
The Democratic Party and the Democrat media complex, which is the National Alliance, realizes that they're losing control of the American narrative because of this rise of the new media.
Average citizens and the new media is the means by which we can actually not just start to govern ourselves and start telling horrific truths about our political peril and our financial peril, but we can also now change the equation, and we can begin to start changing the narratives. The second you knock down that wall, you don't understand. It's the promised land. It will be the United States of America again.
Hey guys, this is, I just realized as I was watching that this is going to be hard. This is not going to be easy. Thanks so much for being here as you all start to join us from all over, wherever you're seeing it, from Facebook, from Twitter, from Locals. Big thanks to all of the members of our Larry O'Connor community over at Locals for supporting everything that we do and allowing us to be able to do events like this. This is wide open to everybody at YouTube and all of our subscribers at YouTube as well. I'm all tense right now. This is not going to be easy. We're going to be here for the next couple of hours at least, leading you right up to the State of the Union address. How's that? We're your pre-show for the State of the Union tonight, as President Biden celebrates his great achievements. Where I was joking earlier with Meredith that we're basically throwing this thing together the same way Andrew would when he would fill in for a radio show. If he filled in for Dennis Miller, Alex Marlowe and I used to sort of help him produce it, and he would just throw everything at the wall. He would, like, over the course of 3 hours, he would book like 20 guests. He said, well, hey, like, Andrew, when do you expect them to come on? When do you want them? How long? I don't know. Just have them all come on. We'll just talk. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And we're sort of doing that. We're going to lead things off. We're going to be joined by Alex Marlowe, who's now the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, running things over there. And then later on in this hour, we're going to talk to James O'Keefe. It's 7:35 in 35 minutes. And then John Andrasik, the great, incredible pop star John Andrasik, to talk a little bit about Andrew's connection with the pop culture and the entertainment business. Next hour, I mean, anything can happen because we'll have Kurt Schlichter and Derek Hunter, sort of reviving the Hour of Hate that we used to do back on the Breitbart sites with our live stream show, 11, 12 years ago. And Meredith, our old producer, and now, well, she's my personal executive producer. Meredith will probably join us for some memories too. But honestly, this is about you. Well, listen, we're going to tell a lot of stories. We're going to tell a lot of our old stories, and we're going to hopefully make you smile and make you cry a little bit too. I know I'm going to have trouble holding it together. I am immediately right back where I was 10 years ago. I remember doing a special show. It wasn't the night of his death, I don't think, but I think it was like the day after his death, or maybe the day after that, March 2nd, March 3rd, on the old Stage Right show that we used to do and stream at Breitbart TV every night. And I'm like right back in that place where I'm barely holding it together. I can't believe it's been 10 years. But I do want this to be about you. Join us and sign in and make sure that you comment, and we'll load it in there. In fact, we'll start with Mr. Fastbucks here, who says it all. War. Yeah. It's amazing how war just took off and took flight and sort of took over, didn't it? All right, here he is. Well, like I said, this is going to be exactly like Andrew would have. This is exactly how Andrew would have done the Dennis Miller show when he was back in the day. Alex, remember when Andrew would sit in for Dennis Miller and he would give us a list of like 20 guests to fit into 3 hours?
Absolutely. We'd have like a guest for literally slotted for 3 minutes.
Yes,
it was
right.
shorter than a Fox News primetime hit.
And it was like, Andrew, we got to plan this out. And we got to say, oh, it doesn't matter. They're all my friends. We'll just have them all on at the same time. And everyone, I remember there were like 6 of us in studio, all with a hot mic. It was nonsense.
And I know why he did it. He did it because for all of Andrew's confidence, he was not super confident in his talk radio hosting ability. In retrospect, Andrew was an okay host. He was maybe the best guest in the history of talk radio. But I don't know if hosting was his thing necessarily. And the thing is, for me, and I'm sure, Larry, you felt the same thing because you helped him prep so many of those shows, it had the reverse effect of what he wanted. He wanted it to reduce the stress. It greatly increased the stress level, trying to cram in all of these people. They're like A-list people. It's like the real Dennis Miller. Like, we're doing his show. I mean, we got to have some sense of organization here.
Right. Oh, I know. It was a nightmare. And it was also a blast. That's the thing. I mean, everything about working with Andrew every day, I think, and you can attest to this better than anyone, was incredibly fun, incredibly memorable. You were laughing the whole time. And it was also like the house was on fire at all times.
Exactly. That is how he preferred it for whatever reason. And it's very, maybe you can relate to it more than I can, but I'm much more introverted. And to watch Andrew relaxed when it was most chaotic. I just don't even understand this as a personality trait. But he really seemed to be most comfortable and most at ease. When he was probably more comfortable screaming, "Stop raping the people" at Occupy protesters than he would be like having a quiet night at home. That was probably more awkward for him than mixing it up with, Code Pink and roller skates.
So, Alex, every year when we have to sort of struggle through remembering this horrific day that we all woke up to on March 1st back in 2012, every year since then, I've thought, at some point, I want to do this with Alex. I want exactly what we're doing right now. And I specifically want to bring up stories that we sort of promised ourselves we wouldn't talk about for a while until there was some distance. And if you don't want to delve into any of them, don't, because a lot of these are just all happened like in the privacy of our office. But there's one in particular I'll never forget, you and I laughing about it and saying someday we're gonna share this story. Do you remember the day? It was like within the last few months of Andrew's life. We were at the new offices on Sepulveda, or right off Sepulveda. Remember when he met a homeless guy on the street and pulled out his phone and interviewed him on the street? And he came running back into the office like it was the hottest, like it was going to be a Drudge banner headline.
This was the outtakes of citizen journalism that people don't see. And I can guarantee you, if you go to the Project Veritas office, there are just miles and miles and miles of footage, of tape of this stuff. And Andrew did for everyone where it was him, showing up at that Glenn Beck protest where he stumps the guy by simply saying, name one act of racism. Right. And then he says, I'm not going to play your games.
Right. I'm not going to fall into that trap. Yeah.
Right. I might fall into that trap. For every one example of that, there were several of Andrew just like, I went to lunch at Zanku Chicken and there was a guy outside and I talked to him. I'm pretty sure this is content. In fact, I think I'm going to drudge link off this. And you and I are going, I mean, Andrew, we don't want to doubt you or anything. We certainly don't want to distinguish your flame here, but I got reason to believe that won't happen. And we're going to waste a lot of time in the process.
We would be 3 deaths away from each other, and you would start IMing me the headline like breaking: internet media mogul talks to homeless man on Sepulveda.
It's probably, I would love to see those headlines. I wish we saved them because I'm sure that it's the Andrew is, you had to believe in his vision, but it doesn't mean he didn't need an editor from time to time.
Yeah. Yes.
And occasionally he did prove all of us wrong, where he would be on board for something, and maybe I was skeptical, or you were skeptical, or someone was skeptical, and he did prove us wrong from time to time. But occasionally he didn't prove us wrong, and occasionally it was just, well, now that Andrew talking to homeless guy videos up, which no one remembers unless you worked on that video. Right? Like no one else remembers that one.
Although I got to say, as much as it pains me, I don't know if you remember this, but you just referred to the "Stop Raping the People" video. You remember we decided that night that we would not post that at Breitbart TV. Remember? He was up, it was at CPAC, and he went up to do Huckabee up in New York, and he came back the next day and he wanted to know what kind of traffic we got on the Occupy video. And I had to tell him, standing in the lobby of the Marriott, we didn't post it because for various reasons. It wasn't our video, but also, frankly, we didn't think it made him look that great, And oh my God, that's the worst he's ever yelled at me that night because he was really angry that we didn't post that. And he was right.
Well, yeah, that was an example where, in retrospect, that thing did got to get a mind of its own, and it did become something that was iconic. There are other ones, that I probably won't get into yet. I'll think about it, but there were some examples where the opposite happened, where he insisted we put something up, and then we did put it up, and it didn't go well, and then he was kind of mad that we put it up, and those were tough moments.
Yeah.
In fact, those were some of the toughest moments, to be honest with you.
There were some very tough moments, but I mentioned at the panel we did at CPAC last week that my memory, I mean, I've never laughed as hard as I did in those 3 years when I worked with him. Do you agree that sometimes, I mean, everyone says happy warrior, but I feel like too much of Andrew's memory right now is wrapped up in the warrior part, and we don't reflect enough on the happy part.
If you see the tributes to Andrew on the front page of Breitbart.com that we've had up all day, which it almost is like a documentary. It's really incredible stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the who's who, the conservative movement from, Clarence Thomas on down are in it. The happy part comes through more than the warrior part. And that's something it's a narrow margin, I would say. But I would say overall, people are spending more time today, and I know I have, thinking about what an amazing person Andrew is, and not just what a warrior he was, because actually, of his two big legacies, jocularity and righteous indignation, we're probably a little heavy on the righteous indignation now and a little light on the jocularity. It's very tough to do because it's a darker time than it was 10 years ago. And it's sad that that's the case, but it is the case. But I do think 100% he would want us to have fun and to have a good time, and to to engage in that sort of behavior more than we do.
I know. By the way, thank you for giving us time, because it's are you on the West Coast? I forget which coast you're on now. Are you back in?
I'm on both coasts. I'm on both coasts. It's top secret, but I'll tell you. Can you see my set, Larry?
It's very impressive.
Look at this. It was a 2-year-old's birthday over the weekend, Master Marlowe Jr. I named him after his big brother, Master Marlowe.
Very impressive.
And you get the Dalmatians. We get the happy. See, but I thought this was very Andrew. Like, normally you ask me, even for a live stream, because I know how much culture and image matters. Typically, I would get showered, and I would do my hair, and I'd set up my nice lights. But in the spirit of Andrew, this one I just walked over. I buttoned my shirt and I walked over and plopped the computer down.
This is it's the Stage Right show. Come on, this
is what Andrew would have wanted also, Larry.
That's right.
But he would do his CPAC speech like this.
Yes,
and 10 million people would see it.
Actually, and especially the homage to the kids, because I mean, let's face it, when your first day on the job, I think you were moving a desk down a set of stairs into his basement, and the kids were everywhere, and they were toddlers.
It was amazing. There was one incident where one of the children made a bowel movement within arm's length of my desk.
I was hoping you would bring this up.
And another one where I don't want to make it seem like I'm being ungrateful for the incredible life that Andrew gave me. But there were moments like these that did come as a tax, so to speak. Yes. When I used to work by the bathroom, and when the potty training takes place, sometimes you don't make it all the way to the bathroom. Yes. You get very close. Which was the turd itself was somewhat shocking, but what was more shocking was when one of the parents came down and suggested that it was a good job to get that close.
Yes,
that was when I was like, what? That's a good job. It looked like a miss.
Well, you understand that now as you're in the middle of it. You got to be
Oh,
very
I
tough.
very much understand it now. Now I can relate. Look, this was, but it wasn't a big education for me. That's kind of funny because big education was one of the
Yes.
sites we thought about launching. But
Yeah.
it wasn't education because it was so grateful for me as someone who did grow up and was kind of told that I was a smart person and I had like good qualities, and it was really amazing for me to step out of this sort of womb that is college and then go straight into Andrew Breitbart's world where
Yeah.
it's intense and you're dealing with some of the smartest people who have ever typed into a keyboard. And it was very humbling a lot of the time because I realized how little I knew about the world. And because of Andrew's peer group, who was so amazing, I was really able to sort of humble myself and to learn a lot for years and years and years before I was even remotely out there.
Yeah.
And that was such a great lesson, something I'd recommend to just about every 22-year-old.
Can I ask you, and I'm gonna let you go because I know you're dealing with the site and it's a busy day, and I don't want to occupy your time, but I've always wanted to ask you, because I left within a year of Andrew's death, and obviously this site has just exploded thanks to me leaving. And it's just done so well, and you're editor in chief, and you're running things, and you've been running things for many years. When you bring in new employees, when you bring in people who may have known about Andrew or maybe were inspired by Andrew or saw Andrew when they were teenagers but never met him. Do new employees sort of get any kind of not formal briefing or formal education, but do you instill with employees at Breitbart sort of the Andrew ethic and who Andrew was and what he was about?
It's the question, and it's something that I would hope is done in every newsroom, even ones that don't have Andrew's name on it, because he had the toolkit. He knew how to handle just about every situation. He knew the importance of narrative, but he also knew the importance of telling the truth. He didn't like getting stuff wrong. He really didn't. He was. I never saw him shine on a mistake. So he had this amazing ability to use those tactics of jocularity and righteous indignation. Think about these rolling narratives in terms of stories, trying to have fun with the website every day, trying to be fast paced, trying to set the tone, even when the rest of the world is telling you X is the story. If you really believe Y is the story, you can genuinely pull it off and convince the world that Y is the story, as you guys did a number of times. I mean, Larry, you get direct credit for the N word a Capitol Hill hoax, which I mean, you guys just totally hit that one out of the park. And that was when I was in the office with you. And I knew it was good. I didn't know that you guys were going to be able to make it the biggest thing on the planet, which you did. And hopefully, maybe you can share some of that because that was a huge feather in your cap. But
Yeah,
you guys worked that thing to the bone, and you forced that issue.
yeah.
And these are exactly the stuff I'm telling younger journalists. But it is hard to follow in Andrew's footsteps because he was one in a billion, maybe more, and we'll never replace him. I've never even made any claim to trying to replace Andrew. It never would.
No.
It has to be a collective. It has to be all of us. And by the way, Larry, I would love to hire you back. We got to figure out a way to do that. We got to figure out a way to get that done.
Oh, really? Oh, you're trying to sabotage the site, are you?
I don't know. I get a feeling that you're priced out at this point. But if you're not, then let's find a place for you. Let's find a place.
We'll talk. Maybe this isn't the forum. Maybe this is not the approach.
Exactly the forum. This is how I always open my negotiations in the public.
You're going to prey on my emotions. You're going to take advantage of me, Marlo. You've done it before. All right, listen. Is there one thing? I know it's impossible to nail it down to one thing, but I mean, when you look back on all of those, especially the early years before things got crazy, I always liked it. To me, the line of demarcation is the basement team and the post basement team. It did. Not that, I mean, we were still sort of renegades and we were still scrambling, but in the like, I remember that day that you were given a present by your desk. If I remember right, I came down and I said, "What did I miss?" And I'm not going to name the child because they're a young adult now. Yeah, but you said so and so just dropped a deuce on my desk. If I remember right, is how you put it. And I'm like, wow, okay, it's a fun day. I'm glad I missed it. What sticks out to you?
The child's probably like 30 now.
Yeah, right.
Probably like a Ivy League law student.
But sort of, I mean, with all of the stories from the Wiener to the Acorn to people forget the big stories. The NEA story out of Big Hollywood was huge. First person to have to resign from the Obama administration. All of those different. I mean, what sort of, if you had to land on one thing, if you could land on one thing.
It's really hard. I'm going to try to. The answer is Wienergate, but that's a little boring. So I'll try to add a little bit more to it. because it's something that's been interesting during the last month or two as I've been thinking about Andrew every day in the lead up to this day, which I'm really heartened to see that you're participating, Larry, in an extra way. Like this is exactly what I was hoping, is that people would try to do their own homage to Andrew, their own personal celebration, because that's what he would have wanted. And I was thinking about things like how when Andrew and James O'Keefe got Acorn defunded, they did it with Democrats having the majority in both houses of Congress and the presidency.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought of how significant that is. Like that is in 2022. That has totally different meaning than it did in 2009. I mean, it just seems like such a gargantuan task. Not only that the New York Times and the Washington Post didn't write a single column on the story until Acorn was already defunded, which in
Yeah.
and of itself is an amazing accomplishment. It was they got through all three branches. I mean, judicial sort of, but both houses of Congress and the presidency. Um, all those are controlled by Democrats, and Acorn still got defunded. That was unbelievable. But of course, Weiner was my favorite for a couple of reasons. The first one is that was the first big story where I take some level of credit, which is of course not nearly as much as Andrew gets, but I was a voice in the room that was suggesting that we needed to go with the story, even though we never had done a sex scandal before. And the reason why was because he claimed he was hacked.
Yes.
And
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Because I was part of that phone call that night. That was an incredible night, and it's embedded into my head. And there was a big debate about whether we could run with this story or not. And Alex, you were the one. You said, let me just say something. He's just deleted his account, and he has claimed that he was hacked. That's the story. The story is that a sitting congressman is claiming that he was hacked. Now we can reveal what was there, but you were able to laser beam down on it. You're so right. And that got the ball rolling.
And I was very proud of that because a lot of that I think comes back to how I found Andrew, which was because I was a Drudge super fan and I learned that Andrew was an editor of the Drudge Report. And this is how Drudge did the Lewinsky scoop. Like he didn't do it. He didn't act like this is a sex scandal. He wrote it up as this is a media scandal, that this is a scandal. So he took kind of a circuitous route to it, that it was the Newsweek killed this amazing story by Michael Isikoff. That was a career-making story, and they had just cut it up because they were protecting Clinton. And that was kind of the narrative. And that was so genius. And I think that was kind of in the back of my mind when we were looking at this, thinking, maybe this isn't, you don't do it this way. Maybe you do it as the hacking angle. And that Andrew was convinced by that, I do think speaks volumes about him because I was probably, 24 at the time. And this was the first time I've ever kind of weighed in like that and in a big company decision. And I could tell he was thinking about it and gave me, he kind of gave me credit, and then he took the ball and he took it to the house with the 360 windmill slam dunk on that story from there. But that was such a shot in the arm for me, and I cannot imagine we'd be having this conversation if it wasn't for that conversation that night, which is just, it gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then of course the cherry on top with him hijacking the Weiner press conference, perhaps the single best video on all of YouTube of the millions and millions of videos. That might be my favorite.
By the way, and it's true, but everyone needs to know this because everyone thinks of that day, and it was such a triumphant, cathartic, incredible, hilarious, and vindicated day for all of us. But people have to know the week leading up to that, from the moment we ran that story, which I think was a Sunday night going into Memorial Day, maybe a Friday night going into Memorial Day weekend, all the way through that press conference. It was, I think, 8 days. That was the week of hell. We thought we were all going to be indicted. That was terrifying that week. They put us through hell. He put us through hell. Weiner did.
Yeah, because he kept lying and smearing Andrew, and that's why. But good for him for apologizing. Who apologizes these days? I mean, it's just no one. And if they do, they're only just trying to get the cancel mom off their back. But that's the only thing nice I can say about Weiner. And to think all of that led up to the Comey hearing at the very end before the 2016 election.
Yes,
it's another one that Andrew gets credit for again. Which, I mean, if you want to give details on that, by all means. Well, but yeah, I think it was a Friday night. If not, it's not Friday or Saturday. It was definitely a weekend night, and that was just an amazing moment. And boy, those memories are so good.
Yeah, what Alex is referring to is the Comey deciding that there were more Hillary emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop 10 days before Election Day in 2016. That was a direct result of the ongoing FBI investigation into Anthony Weiner's behavior that started with the Breitbart expose on him. Phenomenal times. All right. Well, I mean, we could go on and on. We should go on and on, but we will. We will at another time. Someday we're going to write a book, maybe a screenplay.
Oh my gosh!
I got to tell you,
the miniseries now. The screenplay. I watched some of the SAG Awards, Larry. Did you watch some? It's a sad state of affairs in the movie world right now.
It is. Did you see by any chance Netflix did a I think it was a series. It may have just been a movie, but about the origins of National Lampoon and the creation of National Lampoon and all those guys.
I haven't seen it. Any good?
You got to watch it because you'll think of Breitbart. You'll think of the early days of the site and what it took to get the site up and what we did. I mean, it was
the show that should be done was and this was being discussed, was a show that's like TMZ, but Andrew Breitbart's the Harvey Levin.
Yeah.
So we have still to this day very entertaining conference calls multiple times a day with our editors, who are incredibly knowledgeable people. And we're lean and mean. We play Moneyball, so we're not a huge staff. We're kind of a medium-sized staff. But I mean, picture Andrew running something like that. Look at the personalities who came through Breitbart, from Ben Shapiro to Peter Schweitzer to Steve Bannon to Dana Lash to you to me, James O'Keefe. I mean, the list goes on and on. These people cycling in to be in Andrew's newsroom and talk through the stories. Like, that would be. I regret that never happened about as much as I regret anything.
Well, that newsroom we had when he passed away in 2012 was set up perfectly for it. It had that center bullpen at the bottom and everything. And yeah, I remember Shapiro. If I remember right, the day before he died, Shapiro and I were down at the bottom, sitting on those like beanbag kind of chairs, working on stories, and we were arguing and debating about which was better, Sound of Music or King and I.
Yeah.
And Andrew did not like that. He yelled at us.
But it's a great debate. It's a great debate. And I vote Sound of Music. Do I vote wrong, or am I in the right camp?
Oh no, you're with me. I agree with you. He likes King and I better. Shapiro doesn't know anything about pop culture. Okay, he's a brilliant guy, but don't ask him about it.
He and I have the same taste in that regard.
No, he has taste like an 80-year-old. It's awful. It's embarrassing.
It's very funny.
And Alex Marlowe, the man who keeps it going over at Breitbart. It's so good to see you, my friend. Thank you guys for the incredible tribute that you put together on the sites today, by the way.
Thank you, and thank you, Larry, for continuing to be such a great ambassador for Andrew's legacy, which you deserve a lot of credit for that.
That's easy. That's easy to do. Take care, my friend.
All right. Thanks again. Bye, everyone.
See you.
I am so sick of the media dictating the terms of the narrative in this country. I'm so sick of having to be apologetic for who I am. I'm so sick of people in middle America being called flyover country or slope-headed.
Conservative teabaggers. It's going to be teabagging day.
It's hard to talk when you're teabagging. It's so funny because the teabaggers, the one thing they hate is when you call them racist.
If racism is not the whole of the Tea Party, it is in its heart.
Hey, Larry.
That Timothy McVeigh, he had people like that right down.
Larry.
Hey, James.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
I can hear you great, James. We were just showing a little bit of the original trailer for Hating Breitbart. How's it going? It's James O'Keefe, Project Veritas.
Am I live?
You are live.
Oh, I'm live. Okay, well, good.
Yeah. So say things that'll get you in trouble. By all means.
I'm always live, so I'm just excited to be here.
Hey, now that you're here, can I show this video that you put together over there with your team at Project Veritas, the Andrew Breitbart tribute?
That's why I made it, so you can show it.
All right, check this out, you guys. This is incredible. Hang on. Apparently, James, the audio was not working on that for some reason. They were only seeing the great video, so it sucks. And I'm going to put the link in the
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great, but they
Okay,
couldn't hear
great.
the audio on the video. I'm sorry about that. My bad. We'll figure it out. We'll fix it. Anyway, let's move on from the video. How are you, James O'Keefe, Project Veritas? Thanks for remembering Andrew tonight with us.
Well, thank you. And that video, yeah, it's on our Instagram, YouTube, and everything. It's powerful. I chose the moments with Greg Gutfield when he's saying, "I liked it. I like the artistic.
Yeah.
I like the dance." He said it's thriller meets. What did he say? It's thriller meets. He always had a way of talking. Thriller meets.
Thriller meets Hot for Teacher.
Hot for Teacher.
Yes.
So when I was doing the most recent dancing routine in Miami, I said it was Cirque du Soleil meets Hamilton meets Morley Safer meets Ken Burns.
There you go.
So I kind of, him and I, like I said, Andrew Breitbart and I were very different human beings in so almost every possible way, except for like what was in our soul. It's hard to explain.
See, you were different, but you were also very similar. I mean, because I remember him saying, like, when the dance video came out, James, he was like, I don't get it. Why does James want to do all this other stuff? He's got great content. He's got great videos. He's got great exposés. What's with all the music and the dancing? And it's like, he's an audacious showman and he's getting people's attention, Andrew. He's you. This is what you do. You just do it in a different way.
Well, I mean, I don't think I would be who I wouldn't have done Project Veritas unless I was wired that way. It's like the Corey who worked for Trump wrote a book, Let Trump Be Trump. It's the sort of same. I think you even mentioned something about Andrew where he had a way of doing things, and had he not been that way, he wouldn't have done it. If I was not a thespian or an artist, there certainly would never been a Project Veritas for sure.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, listen, it took, if anybody remembers the original Acorn videos where you first sort of connected with Andrew and that sort of hit the splash, there was an immense theatricality about that. That was a major part of those videos. It frankly is what caught everybody's attention and caught the eye, the additional stuff that you did to sort of bring attention to it.
And I think as time went on, him and I had a natural back and forth. For example, the NPR videos, which was the second major thing that we did, I think the NPR thing really, this is in 2011 for those of you who don't remember, it's we went undercover as members of the Muslim Brotherhood and caught these guys on tape ingratiating themselves to agents of the Muslim who they thought were agents of the Muslim Brotherhood at NPR.
Right.
And Andrew and I went back and forth because I was going to do the whole not pimp coat but Islamic B-roll, and Andrew said this guy is so outrageous that you don't even need to do that in this circumstance. I made a simple B-roll, of the restaurant and kept it pretty clean. But yeah, I think there's a flair for the artistic, and Andrew certainly had that with the rollerblades.
So exactly. That's the thing. He's got rolled around on rollerblades at Code Pink and other protests, and this is who he was as well. That's the thing. You guys had a lot in common. So when you were at Rutgers, you did a couple of sort of expose artistic examples of the left's hypocrisy. I remember you were boycotting Lucky Charms, right? Because it was offensive to your Irish heritage, if I remember right.
Yeah, that was the first video I did, and to this day, it's like everyone's favorite video.
It's great.
It was like, I don't know. This is the year before YouTube existed. It was 2005. Google didn't come into being until 2006 with YouTube and Gmail. So I put a Kodak digital camera with a video option, and I said the Lucky Charms offend my sense of Irish heritage. Now, just to give you an idea of how scared I was to do this, like my heart was beating 140 beats per minute. I was sweating, trepidation, and I think it was really uncomfortable for me to do the things. And I even had I won't say who, but someone told me about Andrew Breitbart, someone credible, that he too was like that, but way back when he was in his mid-30s. He was not the same man when he was 41 than he was at 35. Something happened in his ascendance, and he had a sort of, to speak personally, as I've matured and strengthened, I think it's a 0 F's mentality where I just don't get nervous anymore. And in the beginning, though, when you're confronting the professors of the microphone, trying to ban Lucky Charms cereal, feigning an Irish accent, It was like someone would say, "What would compel you to? Is there something wrong with you?" I said, "No. I actually find it very uncomfortable to do that, but I
Yeah.
found it necessary to do that,
Yeah.
and I forced myself to do that."
Well, and I got to tell you, I mean, I look at these pictures of you, from 12 years ago, and I mean, I remember you being when it all came down on you, and boy, they tried to throw everything at you,
Yeah.
and you were a little shell shocked at a lot of it. No one could expect what they started throwing at you, and they tried to say that you were a white nationalist and that you had all these, involved in all these racist things. And I remember you calling Andrew, and he got me on the phone, and we all said, we're going to fix this. We're going to get to the truth. We will get the truth out. And he was able to get the truth out, and actually able to get a lot of those publications to retract what they said about you. Tell me, given what hell you went through then and how you saw Andrew work with you and work to get the truth out, how does that inform what you do today? Because I see you today and you have balls of steel, man. You don't, I mean, you feel like it looks like you've been through the war and back already.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation today. I mean, I really, for those of you who are watching, I really this is a special day, and you're a special man. And we don't usually get to talk like this. I'm always on your WMAL show once a month or once every 2 weeks, and it's like,
Right, I know
it's the whole commercial imperative radio, but this is a
Yeah.
special. You have a special place, Larry. You have a special place in my upbringing and the experience. But Andrew said, quote, "Don't be so serious. Yes, it's a serious issue, serious journalism, but these people don't deserve the respect of your anger. So don't give in to them. F these people. They're only worthy of ridicule." Now, that sounds like a aggressive thing to say, but he's so profound. I'm going to repeat the one line, quote, "These people don't deserve the respect of your anger."
It's brilliant.
Now,
God, it's good.
I have been through, I may be one of the only men you'll ever know who's not that you know mobsters and terrorists, but I've been arrested twice by the FBI. I've been put in handcuffs twice by the FBI, and I'm a journalist. Most people don't even have that happen to them ever. And I've been through a lot in my life, and nothing, I haven't been shot, thank God, or incarcerated for too awful long, but I've been through that. I've been through some trauma. And as I go through the trauma and I've evolved and sort of become a little more lucid version of myself, it's taken me this long to figure out what he meant by that. They don't deserve, we give these people so much power by worrying about how we're perceived by them. And yes, they do have the power to influence perception, but the moment you stop worrying about them and giving them, and I think that's what he meant to say there. Of course, 12 years ago, I did not know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant 5 years ago, Larry. But that was really profound to me.
That's it's so good. It's so good. You have a wall in your office there at Project Veritas, a wall of shame, where you have been able to put up and post every single retraction and withdrawal and correction that you have forced these mainstream media outlets to publish because they lied about you. We played a scene from earlier, Andrew Breitbart and the Anthony Weiner story, and he went up on that podium and said, "All I hear is Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies. Show me one lie, show me the one lie." And they never could, of course. And so you are pushing back every time they say they lie about you. You push back and you force these retractions, and you do it with such joy and glee. And you resurrected Retracto, the correction alpaca. I mean, obviously, part of what you do with your hidden camera exposés is as you've always said, to expose the corruption and hypocrisy and the lying and this deceit from elected officials to the media to the big tech, whoever it is. But there's another part of what you do, and that is exposing what the mainstream media is, how they're a part of it. So talk about that a little bit, because that is all Andrew Breitbart. That's the part that Breitbart would love the most about what you've been able to achieve.
When you and I were in CPAC in Florida, I said on stage with you, I said, he told me, "James, just be yourself. Don't be ashamed of who you are." Because I was scared, as everyone seems to be these days, of a New Yorker magazine reporter walked in the room with Andrew Marcus and in New York City. And I said, "Aren't you worried about that New York reporter?" Andrew said, "But what do you have to worry about? Be yourself, be open, be who you are, because you got nothing to be ashamed of." And it was this sort of liberating. And by the way, this is a guy who held them to account.
Yeah.
This is a guy who went after them when they lied, but they all liked them. In fact, I was just speaking to the Mediaite, Colby Hall, who's
Oh yeah,
not a
Colby.
right winger, but he's what a great guy that was. I've had 4 or 5 text messages from people today. Oh yeah, I really like that guy. And by the way, unless we return to some semblance of overlap on the Venn diagram between left and right in this country, there's 0% chance of avoiding some pretty bad things in the future. So he had that ability, and I think it was the answer to your question, I think it was his openness. And I think him saying the media is everything. After my arrest in New Orleans, Larry, he advised, my counsel disagreed with him, and I was caught in the middle, this very young kid who doesn't know how to play the game and who's falsely accused. It's even worse when you're falsely accused, when you're an innocent man and you're arrested, because it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Andrew said, James, go on Good Morning America and reenact what happened in New Orleans. And the lawyers, of course, that thought it was a horrible idea. Don't say a word about this.
Yeah.
But Andrew was right.
Yeah.
And in the recent FBI episode, when they raided my home, what's the first thing I did when they raided Spencer Mead's and Eric Cochran's home? I went up public and I talked about the whole thing. And of course, the lawyer is never going to tell you to do that.
Right.
But the media is everything. Narrative is everything. And frankly, you know, we already hear politics is downstream from media, but media is downstream from data. Politics, culture is downstream from data.
Yeah.
And Andrew instilled all that, you know, in me, Larry.
You think about him a lot. I think about him so much. I really do. I miss his laugh. I miss him, the random text messages and phone calls. I mean, you used to get them all the time too, and he would just go on and on and on and on.
I mean, everyone, he knew everyone. I'm not that way. I don't have the energy to text and call everyone in you know, media and politics. I have to be careful about my time, especially because I have all these employees now. But
Yeah.
Andrew always made the time. In fact, it were late night phone calls days before he died. He was he was ascending. It was like he was on this curve going up in his spirituality and the metaphysics of what he believed. And he said to me something to the effect of, James, they want us to dance with us, but we're not going to dance with them. They want us on a leash. We're not going to dance. And it was the way there's just no human alive today that would speak that way. I get nature abhors a vacuum, and you and many other folks have filled the shoes in your own ways. But this guy was able to articulate with this righteous passion where he'd be this gentle teddy bear in one second and then this pit bull in another. And I think the thing I miss the most is the lonely part about what I do is not that people don't support me. Clearly they do, Larry. And there's a lot of wonderful people. Oh, we do great work.
Yeah.
But there's no one. It's the fight. It's like, you got to fight. He was a fighter and he was a crusader. And it was nice to have someone like that calling you every night.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I mean, there's a lot of people who work with you and work for you and are teammates with you and peripheral partners with you, but not all of a lot of them just look at it as a job, or a lot of them may look at it as something that they believe in. But if they're not into the fight the way you just described, they'll never be able to relate, and that can be a very lonely place. Yeah. James, I can't begin to tell you how happy I am that you were able to join us tonight. And I got to say, you know, Alex Marlow was just here and he said, you know, no one replaces Andrew. It took all of us to do a little bit of what he did. When you go back and you look at his videos where he's talking about citizen journalism and how everybody right now with their smartphone has the power of a TV studio in their hand and they can change the world. That's what you're doing. You have an army of citizen journalists and you've been able to harness this thing and you continue to change this country. And it's incredible to watch. So, I mean, keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing.
Thank you. I think Andrew said we have the means, we have the technology. It was the quote. It was an electronic civil war.
Yeah.
But it was just it's been such it simultaneously felt like forever, but it also, I was watching that video you just put up and it was like, that's like yesterday. I mean,
I know. I can't believe it's 10 years. It's insanity. Hey,
It's
by the way, real fast, James, I see the great musician and songwriter Gary Eaton is in the chat room right now. And he, of course, he is the composer of Retracto. the correction alpaca. So if you want to
Well,
get
I
that,
do credit him in the video, and people love the retracto, Larry. What's his first name again? I'm having a drawing a
Gary,
blank.
Gary Eaton, the
Gary.
army you have, yeah.
Yeah, Gary. I'll speak to Gary here because since he's on, I get so many people want those retraction plushies. It's like, and I think the reason why people liked it is because in those retraction videos, I'm able to be sort of myself. I'm able to express myself, and I think people love the retractions because it's a win. It's a tiny win.
That's right. That's right.
But we're getting a correction and we're framing it, and they love that.
It's a win for us, and it's also a loss for them. That's even better. All right, man. James, you're the best. Congratulations. Keep doing everything you're doing at Project Veritas. I assure you, Andrew is bursting with pride every day.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Take care, man. Wow. I told you this is going to be hard. I'm gonna try to fight back all the emotion as we go. Let's bring in an incredible guy, someone who was there with Andrew so often. You were John Andrasik, of course. You recognize the great John Andrasik, Five for Fighting, one of the finest singer-songwriters of the last 15, 20 years. And John, how I know. Thank you for being here. This is huge. What you did and who you were was so important to what Andrew did, because he was based in L.A. and he was committed to the intersection of political ideology and theology and the entertainment business. He recognized that what you were able to do and what people in entertainment would do was far more important than those idiots on Capitol Hill watching the State of the Union tonight. So you represent that to me tonight. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Larry. Thanks for having me. It's as I'm watching you, yeah, it's a day of tears, but also smiles and remembering such great times with Andrew. Watching the videos today, you just forget his energy, his presence. But it's great to be with you. And you're right. I think Andrew was probably a bigger music fan than he was interested in politics.
Yes.
He knew some of the most obscure bands I'd never heard of, and I'd actually go to him for my who's the cool band, dude.
Right.
And yeah, he would recite all these bands, and he knew every 80s song, and he was a master of culture. And as you said, yes, he got it way before anybody else. Our side still has no clue, which is one of the tragedies of his passing. But no, he understood that culture matters, and that's why he was such a master, brilliant manipulator of the media.
It's so funny. I had like one or two stories that I wanted to tell tonight, and then I figured you guys would all like remind me of things. So you bring up a great point about his music. I did talk radio with him when he filled in with Dennis Miller and did some other shows, and I would sort of be his behind the scenes, sort of help put the show together, and then he'd let me be on air with him a little bit before I had a career. And I said, you actually can do this if you're really focused. He goes, I don't want to do talk radio.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do radio, I want to do music. He always wanted to start a Sirius XM satellite station called Reagan Thatcher Rock or Reagan Thatcher Punk, truly. And it was going to be this very narrow category of music of the 80s into like 92. He hated the fact that grunge came in and took over. That was when he like turned away from music. But and that whole era of sort of new wave punk, angry conservative, from the the Ramones to the I think was one of his favorite bands, but he called it Reagan Thatcher Punk, and that's what he wanted to do. He knew the K-Rock, the old K-Rock music.
He would have been a great singer, frontman for a punk band, don't you think? There's nothing he wouldn't have said, nothing he wouldn't have done. And no, yeah, he loved the arts. He loved music. He loved sports, as you know. Big sports fan. Boy,
especially baseball.
Love baseball. It was funny talking about stories. I kind of got him into hockey, being the Kings fan, and we'd go to hockey games. And I remember there was one night at a hockey game, and we could tell the people in front of us were aware of us sitting behind him. And there was a Kings fan turned around and said, "Excuse me, may I have your autograph?" And I started reaching for a pen, and he said, "No, Mr. Breitbart."
Yeah. Oh man.
And boy, did Andrew love it, and did he never let me forget about it.
I'm
and
sure.
Thing, Larry, I know everybody's been talking about Andrew today, appropriately, but Andrew loved being Andrew Breitbart. And who can say that? A lot of us have our issues, but he loved it. Where did his energy come from? He loved being Andrew Breitbart, and of course he died far too young. But it's kind of like these amazing artists that they just burn that flame till it burns out.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys. He was going to burn that flame till it burned out, but he loved every second of every day. May we all have a piece of that in our lives. And that's one of the things I try to take from him.
Oh man, what a great point. How did you two like cross each other's paths? Was it just the typical sort of underground conservative club in Hollywood? You just sort of met at one of those gatherings, or what?
We can say FOA. Yes, we can say FOA.
Yeah, I don't know the rules anymore.
Yeah, I think we've hit the termination deadline for FOA. Illuminati. But yeah, it's I met Andrew at one of the very early Friends of Abe luncheons, and it was amazing to watch, because initially came in, like many folks, wasn't quite sure what was going on. But when he saw this kind of group of folks, libertarians, conservatives, Christian conservatives, Blue Dog Democrats, and everybody kind of just speaking their mind and having arguments and then shaking hands and having a drink, I think he found his home. I don't think he realized that there were people that shared his worldview, that were appalled by the hypocrisy of the media. And as you know, he became one of the leaders of that movement. And I do think when he passed away, certainly, it's nice for us to say, well, we'll do it all together. There was only one Andrew, and when he passed away, it was kind of one of the ends of that FOA organization.
It really was. You're right. Yeah.
Which is, again, just another tragedy of his passing. But boy, the times we had, the energy he brought to that room, the relationships he made. And to I'm sure you've talked. I'm talking to you.
Right.
Look at you. I remember we were in we're in one of the Nixon Library.
We
or
were at
something.
the Nixon Library where there was a live remote for Michael Medved.
Michael Medved. I was doing Michael Medved's show, and there were you. This Broadway guy. Talking about a dream of being in talk radio, and look at you. I mean, there's so many stories like you where people have realized their dreams, but they had to have courage first to take that step. And I'm with you. I don't put out blood on my hands without Andrew Breitbart. I don't have the balls to do it. And I think he inspires us every day, even though he's been gone for 10 years.
Well, John, you're so right. And we keep saying it. I said it with Alex and I said it with James. I'll say it with you. Not one person can replace Andrew Breitbart, but because he inspired so many and he found so many people who could fit, it's almost like he was lining people up to fill in all of the spaces in case he wasn't here anymore. And I want to say you fill one of those spaces, because here's the thing. You got outraged over what happened in Afghanistan. You got outraged. We all got outraged. I hope we all got outraged over the horrific way we left Afghanistan and continue to have Americans left behind and our allies left behind. And John, you didn't sit there and say, yeah, someone should do something about this. Someone should fix this. Someone should say something about this. No, you stepped up. You said, okay, this is my Breitbart moment. I'm going to do something about this. And this has now been your passion for several months. And you're helping get people home. You're helping to raise awareness. So, I mean, and you're using your art, your talent, your music and your voice to be able to do that. I mean, that's huge.
Well, thank you. And I have to say, there's kind of two folks that beyond my family members that I look to for putting that stuff out there. One was John McCain. I'm like, if this is a guy who can let other folks go before him and getting out of Vietnam and stay and be tortured, I'm like, I can put out a song and have some people say mean things about me and maybe be canceled. And the other was Andrew, who was like, we can sit here and whine and complain. The world's not fair. The media is a bunch of hypocrites. But unless we get out and say something, are we part of the problem? And I really, I can tell you right now, without Andrew Breitbart, his legacy, his memory, his friendship, there's no way I would have put that song out. And more importantly, once the song was out and YouTube takes the song down and people are, piling on, every morning I wake up and say, all right, what would Andrew do today?
Yeah.
And now, of course, I didn't have his genius, but some of his lessons on how to play the media, when to leap, when to stand back, what to say. I would put on my Andrew Breitbart hat and try to channel him. And I think we all do that in our jobs. And again, isn't that a great tribute to, at the end of the day, our buddy, who we missed dearly. And today we're thinking about Susie and his family.
Yeah.
And but they're doing great, and his kids are doing great. So I know Andrew is very proud of them, and we're proud of them too.
Yeah, well said. And we are spending a lot of time talking about his legacy and what he was like to work with and what he was like as a friend, but we shouldn't lose sight of that. We shouldn't lose sight of the family man and how important Susie and the kids were to him, and what a great dad he was, by the way. I mean, who doesn't want a dad that laughs as much as he does and just gets in there and plays? I mean, he was just a big kid with them.
Yeah, and we were in Grand Rapids once, and we took my son and his son Samson out fishing on Lake Michigan, and Andrew hated boats. He got seasick. And this was a lake, all right? This is not the ocean. This is like, but he went out there, got sick as a dog, was throwing up through the boat, but like helping his son catch fish. But yeah, it's and Orson, his father-in-law.
Yeah.
What a great guy! So much fun, so many good times. But yeah, no, he had it right, and the other thing I try to take with me, we're in this kind of culture where we're always angry about something, it's Ukraine now, it's the energy policy, State of the Union. We're always angry, and that really consumes us. And frankly, a lot of times it doesn't really help anything. But his kind of unique method of being that happy warrior, like, don't take it all too seriously, but take it seriously. But but do it in a way that it doesn't consume you and bring you down and make you become the people that you despise.
Yeah.
He had a way to really do that, and I think if we take anything, talking about his 10-year anniversary, I think on our side too, we can take some of that. Look, we see how cultures move through the Babylon Bee more than any speech, right?
Yeah.
Be fun, be funny, be witty, but have that at the end of the day where you can have a drink with your counterparts on the other side, just like Andrew did. And as James said, they can't go away not loving the guy. I mean, in this day and age, could you imagine that? But he would still be that guy.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. John, thanks so much for spending some time with us tonight. Honestly, it means a lot to me. And I mean, it's YouTube, so it'll live on forever. And we'll break this out and we'll put it out there so people have to understand how lovable the guy was. I got to be fair. I got to be honest though, real fast. I am pleasantly surprised that it's almost across the board loving tributes to the guy today. The trolls have sort of sat back. I think even his detractors, certainly on his death, there were even his detractors at the time of his death said, wow, he was a great guy and he was a revolutionary. 10 years later, I think they can see the real impact that he had. Literally, the entire media changed because of him. And I think that there's a lot of respect today for Andrew 10 years after his death.
I agree. And you're a testament to that. And so are all the other folks you're having on. And I really appreciate you, reminding us who he was. It's a shot in the arm, especially in this day and age.
Thanks, man.
All right, buddy.
John Andrasik, keep on rocking.
Take care.
Can't always say that to everybody, but he's a rocker, so it's okay. Thanks, John. Oh man, that's John Andrasik. Can I try another video here? Because for some reason I don't understand why the audio isn't working on this. All right, I'm gonna try one more video, and then you tell me if the audio is working. If it's not, then screw it. But let's try one more. And then we'll bring in Kurt Schlichter next, and then all the good feelings will be gone. Hang on a second.
Welcome back to the special Red Eye tribute to our dear friend of the show, Andrew Breitbart. One of the things I loved about Andrew Breitbart, he had an idea every minute. And it was always about some new project, in particular, new websites like this one. What's your plan forward for the future? What's next? More websites? More, I don't know.
I came up with
sketch comedy?
No, I'm not kidding you. I came up with a website that I am going to plan, and I wanted to use your merrymen who are out, traveling between LA and New York. This would be my first foray into non-political websites. CelebritieSwhoFlyCoach.com.
No, that's
I own the URL. Don't try and buy it.
This is me. I thought this was another clip. No. Boy, I lost weight again. No, he had another great idea called women who pick up dogpoop.com, because he would be driving around and see women walking their dogs, cute girls in LA, and he goes, this would make millions. So it's like pretty women picking up dogpoop.com. And he bought the site and he collected some pictures.
The problem is you get too close to it when you're taking the picture. You gotta do it from a long lens.
It really just sounds like a guy explaining a fetish to his wife.
Exactly.
.com.
But you know what? He always had. He got that idea. He just always had. He got to that point. Do I have time for this Occupy Wall Street? This is him on Occupy Wall Street. Let's show this a little bit.
Much as I hate Occupy and I've ripped it, I've been to Occupy Reykjavik. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Occupy Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I've been to a lot of them. LA twice, DC. When you go down there and you get caught up in the pulsing action, they had like a guy doing a turntable, and it was like this apocalyptic dancing during the middle of the day. I saw a hippie chick who had a little paunch, and she was doing hula hoops to the music with her neck. And you stand there and you see the freaks of nature, like the old Dead shows of the 1970s and 1980s, and as much as you hate the politics behind it, you're just like, I kind of like you people. I don't know why. I can't explain it.
All right. Who's the blonde in the leg chair, by the way? Anybody pick up on that? Who was the blonde in the? Kurt, did you recognize the blonde in the leg chair there?
I didn't notice.
All right. Well, all right. I mean, Derek, did you pick up on who the blonde in the leg chair was? Derek? Oh, hang on. You're muted. I can't unmute you. Why can't I unmute you? I'm really good at tech. All right, hang on.
Can you hear me now?
There I
Everything has
can.
gone screwy.
There I
Holy
can.
crap.
Now I can.
The
Now
whole
it's
gang.
You
perfect.
sound like a demented Smurf to me. Literally, it's
demented
now.
Smurf.
You sound like a cat purring.
Is that
while
better?
talking dirty? No, it's not
When did
any
you
better. I
become
can
a-
make
why
out
is
what
there
it
a cat
is because I
behind you?
speak purring cat.
All right, hang on.
As
Let's
Kurt
try
well
this.
knows.
Yeah. All right. I don't know what to tell you. This is what we got.
Good Lord, let me try and reconnect because
All
this
right.
is bizarre to me.
All right, we're removing Derek.
I think
there.
you're doing fine.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, Kurt Schlichter, tell the story of how you first connected with Andrew Breitbart. You were just a lawyer. You were a lawyer and in the National Guard.
Yeah, and I had written, and I wasn't really writing anywhere anymore. I had been, I had done freelance stuff. I'd written jokes. Remember those bar games?
Yeah.
You would do the trivia questions.
Yeah. You wrote that
Yeah, I
shit?
used to write those.
Oh,
I
man.
bought a BMW writing jokes for bars.
This explains
And
a
the
lot.
weird thing is, I went to one of the bars once. I thought I was going to cheat and win because I would write the TV questions. I go in and I play, and you play against thousands of other people, and I came in like 18th.
Of course. That's how you do this stuff.
So
All right.
but I was kind of into conservative media and stuff, and I kind of knew who Andrew Breitbart was. And then one day, somebody from law school said, "You got to meet this Andrew Breitbart guy." I went to school with him, and hooked us up. I don't really remember exactly how. We started talking about 80s music and San Diego Mexican food.
Yeah.
And it just kind of went from there. I saw Big Hollywood starting, and I saw a story that the Star Trek movie, the dumb Star Trek movies, was going to premiere in Kuwait for our troops. And I thought, oh, well, Andrew might think that's cool because, you got to praise good as well as mock the bad.
Yeah.
Right. So I told him, and I said, I sent him an email or something. I said, why don't you, why don't you guys write an article about that? He goes, why don't you do it? And I go, oh, okay.
And you did. That was your
And
first post, and the rest is history.
That was it. And then he sent me like a writer's kit. One thing he didn't send me was an agreement.
Yeah.
So I am literally the only original old school Breitbart guy without an NDA.
Yeah, I don't know how that slipped through, by the way.
I didn't have an NDA.
Right? The lawyer doesn't get screwed.
Derek,
everybody screwed, but I didn't.
Everybody has these stories about how, they say, hey, I've got an idea. And Andrew said, well, you should write it. And they think it's Andrew, finding the hidden talent inside you and that he's being inspirational. No, he just basically, didn't want to do the work.
He just wanted free work.
He would have done the work, though. He would have done the work. I've never seen anybody sleep less. But yeah, this picture right there.
I love that
is-
picture. Wait, so
that
is
Is he in a Snuggie?
he is. That's a
Yes.
Snuggie.
Yes, I had drunkenly bought a Snuggie at 2:30 in the morning from a Rite Aid near my apartment in Baltimore, and I hid it from the world for about 3 weeks, and then I decided to embrace my shame by bringing everybody into it. And I took pictures of about 150 people in the conservative movement in the Snuggie. And
I never
Andrew
got a
is too.
Snuggie shot, and I've been to your
I
house
didn't know
giving
you.
diseases.
This was
I
early
didn't know
days.
you existed. This is
Yeah,
like
this was
2008. I didn't know
This
you
was
existed.
early days.
I heard that Andrew was coming. He was working for Drudge at the time. He was going to be at this happy hour, and I brought it with me. Like, he was drinking his beer. I introduced myself, and I said, "Would you mind?" I explained to him really quickly, and his response was, "Yeah, okay." And he threw the Snuggie on and took the picture. That picture was within 5 minutes of meeting him. Actually, 5 minutes of being in the same room with him. And from there, it's just, speaking of what Kurt said, like, hey, why don't you do it? I was at Occupy. I'd walked through the Inner Harbor in Baltimore to Occupy Baltimore down there. And I saw this pamphlet. I picked it up, and it was how to handle sexual assault charges and things like that and all that shit. And I was like, what the hell? And it was,
well, that's useful for having.
It was basically, don't call the cops. We'll handle it internally. We don't do it unless you really, really want to. And so I sent a picture of it to Andrew. Yeah. I sent a picture of it to Andrew because I didn't even have a scanner at the time. And I said, hey, you guys might want to write on this. And he kind of said, well, can you do it? And I'm like, I hadn't written before. And like, I don't know. And so I just did it, and it blew up. It was a big deal. And that led directly to stop raping people. That's
right.
CPAC.
Wow,
I was standing there going, we're going to get killed. We're all going to get fucking killed.
Am
I allowed to swear?
There was always a let's put on a show in a barn kind of aspect of what Andrew did.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It was. Derek, I'm glad you joined. You actually fill in a big hole for me in terms of the stop, Kurt. Stop, Kurt. Stop it, both of you, for God's sake. It's the hour of hate all over
You'll
again.
walk normal again in about a week.
I feel like I need to go get wine.
Why did I do this? All right. I was on the West Coast. I was in the office when Big Hollywood was born. I was in Big Journal, but I saw big government happen from the other side of the country. Yeah, we were publishing the stories, and it was right. But you were in D.C. and Baltimore with the late great Mike Flynn, the original editor-in-chief of Big Government, with all of those D.C. stories happening. And you sort of saw, because you were one of Mike Flynn's best friends, so you got to see all that unfold.
I'd just been hired, I was the first person hired at the Daily Caller by Tucker and Neil. There was not even, they had an idea, and they had horrible ideas for names. Like, they originally wanted to call it the Northwest Corner. I had to talk them out of it. You're welcome, world.
Oh,
I know. I said we're going to take the corner, which already sucks, and add we're just going to be a quarter of it. Like that, just like a quarter of the suck, or is that 4 times the suck? I don't know how it works, but it was.
Would they have a little graphic of a bow tie?
Sucking. They were going to fund it by a cruise, by having a cruise.
Yeah, it was
by the way, we have to do the Andrew tribute cruise someday.
Oh man.
So, Mike, we had an office in DuPont Circle before we had anything.
I'm getting a beer.
Literally anything.
All right.
I couldn't understand why they had an office. I didn't get why they had an office, but we had an office, had to show up every day. And Mike Flynn knew that we had internet. I'd worked with Mike and become friends with Mike when I was at Americans for Tax Reform, and he was at Reason, and we were working on tech issues. So we drank a whole hell of a lot of vodka. We used to go to Morton's, which is really expensive, and neither one of us were making a lot of money at the time.
I don't remember Mike Flynn as much of a drinker.
Well, he did in his last year of his life. He did quit drinking.
He did.
But
it was the worst thing that ever happened to him. His health went downhill.
But we'd go to Morton's, and I'd bring in a fifth of vodka in my bag. And so I'd order a vodka and Diet Coke, and he'd order a vodka and soda or whatever. And we'd slow, and I'd order a Diet Coke on top of it so we could mix it in, and we'd kill the fifth off of one alcoholic drink at Morton's. We were usually at a table like 12 people, so they let us get away with it. Anyway, Mike used to come once he discovered that we had internet access. Mike was just sitting around at home. It's like, hell, I'll go to the Daily Caller offices. I'd host poker nights there on Friday, and he'd show up and use our internet, and they like told me about big government. This is probably 2 months before it was, or big government before it was launching. And then he sat us all down probably a month before it went, or whatever it was. And he goes, I got something to show you guys. You can't tell anybody. And so he showed us the videos.
The Acorn.
And am I allowed to swear, Larry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We're all just sitting there going, holy fuck, what the fuck? And we all, this was the brilliance of Andrew. Because my instinct, everybody's instinct was like, holy fuck, you guys are going to blow up the internet when you launch. It's going to be massive. And, you release all 10 of these or whatever it was. You're going to destroy Acorn. And Mike goes, no. Andrew's not doing it that way. And I said, what do you mean Andrew's not doing it that way? Like, we're going to do one at a time. And it didn't make any sense. And he said, no, here's why. You release one, and then they all deny it. And they say, well, it's an isolated incident. It's blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then once you get all the statements of everybody on the system saying, no, I don't, this is unbelievable, but it's rare and it's not. Then you do another city. And then like, oh shit. And then they go through this whole thing again. And then you say, well, then here comes another one. And you kill them a death by 1,000 cuts over the course of the days.
And it did. It was brilliant.
It worked beautifully. It worked beautifully because the mainstream media didn't want to cover it at first.
Yep.
But it became so big that they couldn't not cover it. And then Democrats had to vote to defund Acorn.
And by the way, people have to understand when Andrew put together a strategy like that, not only was that a great political strategy in terms of defeating Acorn and defeating the Democrats and getting it defunded because they couldn't deny it and that build, but also it was an incredible media business play because the traffic, it wasn't like one big spike. It just kept growing and growing and growing, and it just kept cascading on itself. So, I mean, everything that he did brilliant politically, he also had a media business strategy associated with it too. Now, Kurt,
I think most people would have just dumped it all out then. I think most people would have said, here you go.
Absolutely.
And deal with it. But no, he knew. He knew.
Yeah. Kurt, when you were writing at Big Hollywood and you were doing stuff with him and you focused on things like that, but you sort of intersected those worlds too. He often talked about,
I wrote for all of them.
Yeah. But
I didn't. It never occurred to me that I couldn't, so I just started to.
Yeah.
And I would write some. It sounds like big government. I'll send it to Flynn or later Walsh, or no, he was big journalism.
Yeah, he was big journalism. Reboy was peace.
Now, here's the funny thing about Mike Walsh, who's one of my very, very close friend. Mike Walsh does not understand our sense of humor. So I'm writing about Andrew Sullivan's trip to Alaska to spy on Sarah Palin. Remember that?
Oh yeah. Didn't the guy buy a house?
I said something about. I wrote a joke or a line about, Andrew Sullivan saying, "Well, I like Alaska, especially how many bears there are."
Oh, that's a gay man joke.
Yeah.
What?
That would.
Hi, Michael Walsh. He's like, I don't know why that's important. Slice, slice, slice. I forget exactly how it was phrased, but it was pretty good. And I've always like you screwed my Andrew Sullivan Alaska bear joke.
Well, wasn't
you're an actual real journalist.
Wasn't Derek? He was obsessed with whether Sarah Palin was faking her child, right?
Yeah,
it was maternity of Trig,
right?
The Down syndrome child, that it was actually her daughter's, and she was covering up for somewhere. I never understood why. Like, it was such a shame that the daughter they had to pretend it wasn't the daughter's. I never understood that, but that was his shtick. I think it was that she was too skinny and attractive and made him feel tingly in weird places. He wasn't used to a woman making him feel tingly. So it couldn't be her kid or something.
Remember, we're supposed to take him seriously now, though.
Yes.
Although he was a trig truther.
They're all serious journalists. Absolutely. Derek, did you ever get the late night phone calls from Andrew?
Oh my God. It's a different time zone too.
Right.
I remember when his book came out, he'd sent me an advance copy, and I sat down on my wife, then my girlfriend's couch at probably 10 o'clock and started reading it. And I figured over the course of a couple of days I'd finish. I ended up finishing it that night. I finished it probably 4 o'clock in the morning, my time on the weekend. And so I sent him an email. Like before, I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm tired. I sent him an email and I said, hey, just finish your book. Excellent. I think it's going to do really well. It's just a really short sort of thing to.
Yeah.
It's about almost before I hit send, my phone was ringing. What did you think? What about this? Was it like this? Was it like that? Was it about like? Oh my God! No, I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition. I didn't expect to have a test. I didn't have my notes nearby. Like, holy shit, dude! The only thing I told him critically, and this is what's interesting because I've talked to a lot of people who, like, I interviewed the guy who wrote the book on Matt Drudge. I'm obviously been friends a long time with Ann Coulter, and they're all kind of cagey about Matt. And I said, the one thing if I had one criticism, I just wish that there was more about your time with Matt, like your workings with Matt, because I never understood like
the whole Drudge thing. Yeah.
Breitbart.com was originally just a wire aggregation service. And it seems like you just throw your friend a bone or your employee a bone and say, all right, well, this story is a big AP story. I'll just let it go to Breitbart rather than the New York Times or whoever's running the AP story. And so Andrew would do that. And then Matt would go in once he saw it later on, when it was his shift, and take it away and give it to like the Des Moines Register or something. And like, I could never understand why he did that. I said, I kind of wish that you'd gone into your relationship with Matt a little bit more. And he looked at me or he said, got quiet on the phone. He said, if I had written one more word about Matt, he would never speak to me again.
Yeah.
Like, one more word than I did. Apparently there were things in the book that Matt demanded be taken out. But he said, if I'd have written one more word about Drudge, he would never speak to me again. And I thought that was a shame. I thought that was too bad because obviously they had a good relationship. They're not like buddies. They didn't serve in Nam together or anything. But
well, he showed up at the funeral.
That's what I heard. I was gonna go and then I couldn't go. I was just starting a radio job and I couldn't get away.
Oh my!
You got it. Huh?
The
Can I borrow that?
Andrew's funeral.
Maybe. It's one of my prized possessions.
That is pretty amazing.
I have the first draft digitally. I have the digital file.
Well, that's even easier. Send that shit this way.
I don't know. This is under lock and key right here.
I need to know.
I signed a lot. I did sign the documents when I left the company.
See, I was never on the payroll. Me and Kurt didn't have to do that shit because we were.
I guess that's true. You guys never got paid.
Well, I never got any money from him. I just worked my ass off and learned how to write a column.
I worked for 1.5 years without getting paid before I finally did get on the payroll. But it was because there were only 5 people, I think, before me on the payroll.
You were stage right at the time. You couldn't even write under your own name.
Well, it's funny when he wouldn't hire me. When he hired me, he told me, I want to put you on the payroll and I want to hire you and you're going to have a job here, but you can't be anonymous anymore. You got to tell everybody your name. That was a big deal because I
was that decision.
Yeah, I knew that there was no turning back, but what are you going to do?
How tough was that decision to make?
It was hard. It was real hard because I was facing the reality that I probably couldn't work in the entertainment business anymore. I couldn't work in theater.
Well, theater.
Well, how did that turn out?
Not really entertainment, it's theater.
Oh, okay. All right.
You lost all your invites to Val Kilmer's parties.
Have you guys noticed that almost every single person who started with Andrew has a radio show?
You make a good point. What, Kurt?
Have you noticed that almost every single person who started with Andrew either has a radio show or frequently guest hosts for prominent radio people?
Yeah, well,
because you shut the hell up. We never shut up. You got that from Andrew.
No, I mean you guys, yeah. Dana, Ben,
Alex,
holy cow, Tony.
Alex Marlowe, Tony Katz.
Marlowe, yeah, he's got a thing going.
Pollock does the weekends on Breitbart. Yeah, I mean it's satellite radio; it doesn't really count. Let's face it. But.
Matt Boyle, doesn't he host the satellite too?
He does.
Matt
He does. I think
Matt
he does
Boyle.
the Sunday show.
Matt Boyle came along after us, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he was hired after his death. He was
he was a Bannon guy.
We never got paid. Then everybody got paid, Kurt.
Yeah, everybody else.
Oh, it's
yeah,
bitter,
exactly.
bitter room here. What?
Now I remember it was Derek who, when I quit.
You're welcome.
After Andrew died, I quit.
Yeah.
Because I got sideways with Bannon.
Yeah.
And it was Derek who said, "Well, why don't you?" Because you had left before. And I was screwing around with ILJ and some other places. And he finally said, "Why don't you come over to Town Hall?" And that was 10 years ago.
I think I still have the introductory email to, I think it was Kevin Glass at the time was the editor there.
Yeah. And then it was like a month or two. And I said, "You got to give me money." And they did.
You guys are opening up an interesting part of the conversation where Andrew was like he never really like when Tucker announced he was starting the Daily Caller, when he had a relationship with all of these sites and never saw it as a zero-sum game, you know.
One thing I'll say about I was there at the Daily Caller at the build up to the launch. My job at the beginning was to sort of get other people on board. I signed up like a couple hundred people to write columns and things. And I was the bridge, even though Tucker loved Tucker, but he said, "Oh yeah, I know." And then you go talk to somebody and say, "Oh, Tucker who?" Like, oh, but now everybody knows who he is. But he knows everybody. And I think he's just so enthusiastic that he over exaggerates how friendly he is with people. But I got Andrew to write for the launch.
Yeah, I remember
the Daily Caller. Just a column. I don't even remember what it was about, but I got Andrew to write that, and the deal was that it wasn't going to be competition. Tucker would write something for Breitbart. Breitbart would write something, and it was just this kind of, we're all in this together. We're all rowing the same boat. Everybody's got their own oar, but we're all going in the same direction. And Andrew was very disappointed that it was never reciprocated. And I don't think that Andrew ever wrote again for the Daily Caller.
Oh, because Tucker didn't write anything for Breitbart?
It was never. That was what I was told. Is that it was mentioned that Andrew told me that, you know, it's like, well, I thought we were going to do this thing, and then he never did it. But then Tucker never wrote for the Daily. Tucker rarely wrote for the Daily Caller too.
Yeah, I don't know about that because something just happened with Kurt. I think his dog just.
He said it dropped an F-bomb, and then
I think the dog bit his wiener or something. I can tell you that the December before he died, Tucker came over to the embassy. They went out to dinner. Andrew and Tucker went out to dinner, and then they came back into the embassy, and they were up drinking for a while. Here's Kurt back. And I remember because Boyle and Kerry Pickett came over too. And I think Andrew was trying to hook them up, which is just
what?
I know.
I just had a late dinner.
I'm sorry, but Andrew was sure that.
Hold on, wait! You have now opened up. Holy crap!
It's true. I swear to God, hand to God. Ask
I thought this shit would come from.
I can just see Andrew. You're gonna be perfect with Carrie.
Ask Meredith. She was there. She was there. And then,
this is not
Kurt,
over.
You fucked Boyle, didn't you? You fucked Boyle once, didn't you?
He just blew me.
After I just knew. You said it wasn't gay if you come on the floor, and then it just went downhill from there.
The hour of hate. We've stumbled into the hour of hate. It's happened. It's happening.
Tell about the hour of hate. That was because Andrew would show up on your show,
right?
And he'd just hold court. It was kind of amazing.
Oh yeah, he'd call in. It doesn't matter what we were doing. He would call in, and then he would just have a story to tell and everything. We just throw everything out. But I want to say that night, Tucker was over after they had dinner. We were all drinking. Tucker left. Andrew saw him to the door, closed the door of the embassy. He turned around and he goes, "I think that's the only friend I've got in this town." He did. I mean, he had fond feelings for Tucker. So I don't know.
Tucker's
about
a nice guy. I met him at this guy's wedding.
Yeah, Tucker came to my wedding.
That's right.
You remember Chip?
Oh, of course. Another one we lost. Chip was he used to call into my show. He called himself Ghost. It was during the 2010 midterms, and he had all of this secret shit on these congressmen that he was going to drop.
He'd always look. He's one of those guys that like make sure nobody's listening. Like we're sitting on the balcony and Morton's, nobody's fucking listening. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows who you are, dude. Relax. But it was the White House Correspondents' Dinner, probably 2010. Me and Flint. We'd been with Andrew earlier in the day and started pre-gaming with Andrew. Andrew, I think, was actually going.
Yeah.
And we were going to crash. So we went around. Chip, Flint, we were hammered. This was before Mike Flynn quit drinking. We're trying to get into, I can't remember whose fucking party it was. One of the big after parties at the Daughters of the American Revolution or whatever headquarters.
DAR.
Oh man, I heard that's a sausage fest.
We were trying to convince the guard that Chip was Andrew Breitbart. Like, he works for Matt Drudge. This is Andrew Breitbart. But he somehow didn't have his wallet with him. It didn't work. We didn't get in. Andrew wasn't quite Andrew yet. And
that's
so
funny.
we were trying to capitalize on the fame of a friend who he was on the cusp of being famous, but he wasn't there yet, and it didn't pay off.
Good play, though. But I think that was the year that Rachel Maddow was tending bar at the MSNBC party.
It was.
And there's a famous picture.
Well, Andrew's going to be on the list. Andrew will be on the list. All we got to do is get to the party before Andrew. He can prove he's him. Once we're in, we're good. And Andrew wasn't on this fucking list or whatever. I was like, God damn it. Oh, well.
Although I'll say, and people talk about this a lot, but it really is true. And Kurt, you may have witnessed this in LA sometimes. The last people you would think who would have liked Andrew actually really liked Andrew.
Yeah.
I've got two stories. The one story I can tell you firsthand, when I was covering the 2012 primary up in New Hampshire, it was like January. It was an early primary. It was before he died. And Lawrence O'Donnell was at this event. It was in a bar for Newt Gingrich. But Newt I remember. It was a Mexican restaurant, and Newt Gingrich was announcing his immigration policy at a Mexican restaurant.
That's beautiful.
I kid you not. I kid you not.
That's the most Newt thing ever.
And we were jammed.
It was my guy then.
All the reporters, all the people who were following. Oh, that's right. You were supporting him in 12, right? And and everyone's like coming up to Lawrence O'Donnell saying, "Oh, hey, Larry, can we get a quote on this? Can we get?" And he was like, "No, I'm here to watch the event. I'm here to watch the event." And I had my camera out, and I said, "Mr. O'Donnell, I work for Andrew Breitbart at Big Government. Can we do a quick interview?" And I kid you not, Lawrence O'Donnell looked at me and says, "You work with Andrew?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I'll talk to you for 5 minutes." Lawrence O'Donnell.
Tell you a story. I ran a happy hour in DC called First Friday, and it was just on the first Friday of every month we get together at Union Pub and get hammered. Andrew, everybody came. Tucker came. Newt came once. Boehner came. You name it. Hitchens used to come all the time.
Wait a minute. Boehner came to a place they served alcohol?
This is
He
so
showed
unlike
up
him.
with a driver. He brought his own glass of wine. I shit you not. He got out of his SUV with his own glass of wine. But Stephen Weber, I ran this blog.
Oh yeah.
And somebody wrote some comments and I was like looking at the comments or whatever, and it was they claimed to be Stephen Weber. And so I started going back and forth in the comments on this fucking blog, this local blog that nobody did nothing for. And he goes, "No, I am Stephen Weber." And so I knew I could see, because I administered the site, I could see what his email address was. And so I looked it up, and it was something Wumpy, something or other. And it was unique, and it was like his production company or something like that. I'm like, holy shit, this really is Stephen Weber.
Yeah.
We started corresponding. He's a crazy mother. That guy is fucking crazy. But he couldn't have been nicer, and Andrew was the in. He knew Andrew, and he's like, look, Andrew's all right. And Andrew once announced famously, like, Stephen Weber's hands off. Everybody let Stephen Weber be Stephen Weber. He's writing for the Huffington Post all the time.
Right.
And Stephen Weber actually started writing for my random blog about a happy hour. He'd write crazy left-wing shit, but he would write it. And like, holy fuck, all right, cool. I'll run it. I didn't care. But yeah, it was very bizarre that like Andrew was that bridge that somehow Stephen Weber found my blog and agreed to write for it for no like one.
But it was because
the audience
of Andrew.
He's used
because
to. Yeah, it was because of Andrew.
Because of Andrew, yeah. I mean, Kurt, he was. It was weird. Did you? I mean, didn't we go out to lunch with him at that fucking cheesecake factory? He loved that cheesecake factory in Brentwood. Remember, we had lunch there.
I had some weird lunches with him. I had a lunch with him, Adam Baldwin, and a New Yorker writer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where the hell's Adam Baldwin? Why isn't Adam on here?
You know, he had a scheduling conflict. He was gonna. In fact, I should text him right now and tell him
Adam.
He did. He's got stuff going on.
Call him.
Yeah,
He's got stuff going on.
It was always odd. My last lunch was with
Mr. Hollywood.
Andrew D.B. Sweeney in Century City, like
D.B. Sweeney. Oh,
D.B.
shit.
Is it 85 again? Holy shit! I gotta get some.
I was like,
pants.
How much sexual tension was on the set of The Cutting Edge?
Dude, hey, she was hot. Maura Kelly, don't you
oh yeah,
dude.
Little hint,
super hot.
She in the
Chaplin.
Twin Peaks movie.
Oh,
so
and in Chaplin,
everybody's naked in the Twin Peaks.
Really?
Movie. Pretty much.
Oh, well,
yes.
okay.
They did the movie, and it's like, all right, well,
I'm just saying, in case that's where your mind is at, and it is.
Yes.
But
no,
I remember Andrew just looked terrible. And I said, man, you look horrible. You need to rest. No, everything's cool.
Wow.
How did you I found out as West Coast, and didn't somebody I think there might have been an email, but then his Twitter account announced it or something really weird. And then it was all very is this a fucking joke? Is this a prank? What's going on here?
I remember people thought it was a prank at the beginning. I don't remember if Meredith will remember.
Somebody tweeted from his account day later on by accident. Not about him having passed, but somebody. What the fuck? It shows up and what?
That's right.
What is this?
Somebody in the. That's right. We all got that tweet. Somebody in the office tweeted on his account by accident. That's right. Yeah. I remember that now. But no, I got a call at 3 a.m. from Joel Pollack. To tell he called all the editors as soon as it was official. It's weird. Everybody says March Red. Technically, I think he actually died right before midnight on February 29th. So he died on a leap year. So really, it's only been 2.5 years.
Seems longer,
right?
Yeah.
Does it count that way?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it super sucked. A friend of mine who wasn't in the kind of movement called me up and said, "Hey, your friend died." I'm like, "What?" It was pretty shitty.
Yeah, it was pretty.
And then all the rigmarole around the funeral, you got the special email saying you've been invited, you've been selected. We'll send you.
Yeah, I've
the
never been
details
invited
if you
to
tell
a
us you can
funeral
come.
Before.
I've never had to RSVP to a funeral and then wait to find out where it is and when.
They were freaked. They were freaked
that's
out
how
about.
The left was
Yeah, they thought Occupy would show up. They were freaked out about protesters.
Yeah, weird. I think it probably would have been a grave error for Occupy guys to show up because we were feeling pretty freaking salty.
No, we were.
Have
ready
you gone
to
his grave since then?
I have. One time I stopped by because it's right on the way to LAX. It's right off the 405.
Oh, I know where. I know. We ought to go up there. It's about 10 minutes from my house.
It is actually. It's pretty close to your house.
We can pour one out.
Yeah, we should. I was there once. I think about 2 years after his death, but I haven't been. I drive by it. I think about him when I drive by.
I think about him every time I drive by because you can see it from the freeway.
Yeah, exactly. But,
it was an interesting funeral, like the Star Wars cantina of funerals. I ended up driving Ace of Spades. I met Ace driving. I drove him to the reception, the wake, I guess.
Ace. Love
Ace. Matt.
And Ace has become a good friend.
Yeah.
And
Matt
Ace's
was there
associates. Though. I don't want to give too much away about Ace.
No, we're not. We can't.
No.
I still don't know his last name offhand. I would have to sit and think about it.
That's probably best. That's on purpose.
But yeah, it was, and I drove Thaddeus Cotter to the airport on the way back.
Yeah,
McCotter. And did he smoke in your car?
And, John Voight showed up, and he had literally the best suit I have ever seen on a human being. I mean, he looked. I was like,
Larry, you would know this. Wasn't
What?
Matt part of the program originally, but then he wouldn't do it or couldn't
he
do
showed
it
up.
or whatever?
They wanted him to say something, and it's funny because I remember Solov's mom came up to me and Meredith and said, "You guys have to talk to Matt because he was just sitting isolated by himself. No one was talking to him. Hardly anyone recognized him because he's such a
Yeah.
hermit, right?" And she said, "You got to go talk to Matt because he doesn't want to say anything." And we were just trying to make him feel comfortable, but he was freaked out. He was super freaked out, and he didn't go to the wake afterwards. But Gutfeld was sort of the MC of a big party afterwards at a hotel. I don't remember which hotel it was. And Drudge didn't go to that. He said, "Oh, I got to go work. It's Super Tuesday." It was Super Tuesday. Remember, it was Super Tuesday for 2012 primaries, and he wanted to go back to the hotel and run the site. But I mean, I don't think that was it. There were people, Charlie Hurd and the other guy. Who else was running the site at that time?
The guy from the Washington, the guy who was at the
It used to be at the Times, and
Hotel.
now he's at the Daily Wire. Oh crap! It's not that he's not memorable. I'm just forgetting his name right now. I feel terrible.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
But yeah, I think he was really affected by it, and it was really interesting. Drudge was before the ceremony took place. He said, "So what are you guys going to rename the site?" And I said, "Well, I mean, it's going to be Breitbart News. We're going to keep Andrew's name." He goes, "Really?" And well, yeah. I mean, it's in homage to him, and it's a tribute to Andrew, and he created it, and then that's our brand. And he goes, "Oh, I just thought, now that he's dead, you would change the name." And I said, "Well, I mean, what are you going to do, with the Drudge Report?" He goes, "Oh, when I die, everything's just going to disappear." And he did this with his hand. So,
well, little did he know that it would disappear before he died. He would kill it before he died.
Did he sell it or what happened?
I don't know. No, I think he's still doing it, but
well, so do I. Oh, and also the site.
Yeah. Well, Meredith is going to come down and join me in a few.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys want to stick around for that. That might get.
Is that your way of saying "go away, losers"?
Yeah,
get out of here.
Moron.
You're welcome to
Piss
stay.
off, Whitey.
No, not at all. You're welcome to stay.
I like how you muted me while I was eating potato chips.
Well, it was a request from the comments section.
Yeah, why do you listen to these RS tweets?
Who eats chips on mic? Like
exactly. The problem is
that's part of the Andrew magic, man. No rules.
The problem is
rules.
I love that the problem is me muting him and not him eating potato chips on the mic.
Dude, I'm hungry. I've been working very hard.
What had you curse and hang up or whatever? What did you do?
Yeah, what happened there?
Daniel Knopf came out as a conservative that night. I don't know what night she's talking about.
This is a good one. I don't think I've told this one very often. I get a call from Andrew, middle of the day. "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, I had to tell you the story. I'm standing on Columbus and 64th right now. I was on the phone, and this little nebbishy guy with a stocking cap and a coat is just standing there. And he's like, it's some weird stalker fan, and he wants my autograph or something. But I'm on the phone, and I keep turning away, and he's right on my shoulder, and I can't shake him. So I finally finished my phone call, and I turned to him, and he says, "Are you Andrew Breitbart?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I love everything you do. I watch Fox News all the time. You're brilliant. Keep doing what you're doing." It was Rick Moranis.
Are you kidding me?
Rick Moranis.
He told me that. I can vouch for that story. I'll tell you, one of the last times, I know you can't talk about this, Larry, but during the one of the lawsuits, I won't go into which lawsuit.
I cannot talk about this. I will mute myself.
But Andrew
speaking as your attorney, shut the foo up.
Andrew
Larry
was in town, and he asked me. We're at Morton's again, and he said, "What's the word on this? Like, what are people?" He was very concerned because I think Glenn Beck had gone off on him and done something or said something.
Yeah, Beck sort of threw us under the bus on that. I can say this. He did.
He wanted to know whose side the conservative world was coming down on, and I kind of had to tell him, sadly, neither. Nobody really gives a shit. No, unless it's just true about the conservative movement then, it's true about the conservative movement now. Unless it affects their bottom line or them directly, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of tell them they're not taking Beck's side. They're not taking your side. They don't care because they're not impacted by it.
Yeah. I can tell you this, though. I remember vividly. I think this will. I think this will resonate with you two in particular. Two people within the conservative commentariat that immediately threw him under the bus and abandoned him and got the story.
Let me guess. Let's guess.
The story completely wrong.
Let us guess.
Steve Hayes and Jonah Goldberg.
Boom! Oh, God, that was as easy as a Lincoln Project guy at a elementary school.
Jonah went on special report and he just totally got the story wrong. He says, well, this was terrible, and Andrew shouldn't have done this, and Andrew shouldn't have done that, and I know Andrew, and I don't da. And I remember like Breitbart calling Jonah like 5 minutes after the show because it was Pacific time. It was like 4:00. And he got him on the phone while Jonah was probably in the green room. And he just lays that, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know this story. You don't know anything that happened. You completely lied just now. You're buying what CNN is telling. Oh, I mean, it was ugly. It was ugly.
Andrew called Jonah Goldberg the most arrogant person he'd ever met. Just wild. Just he. It's not that he didn't like him. I think Andrew appreciated it. But he's like, he really loves himself.
Derek, I don't think you understand. Jonah Goldberg is a graduate of Goucher College.
Hey, man.
Back the foo off.
In gender studies.
Gophers, which is their mascot.
Gender studies.
Did you know Goucher is one of the colleges in America?
No, you can't prove that. You can't prove that. No. I believe it's on indigenous land, so it's its own country.
Oh, there's that.
The last CPAC that Andrew was at, I would never forget. I took a picture. There was a happy hour. There was a little stand up with the sign, like with the letters, except it was a Post-it note stuck to it. It said, drinks with conservative author David Frum. 5:30. Shit you not. I shit you not. So I took a picture of it just because it was like 5:10, and it was
all the Zima you can drink
time at 5:30. So I took a picture of it. I just kind of laughed, and I said I had to make a mental note to come back through the bar. This is at the Omni Shore. I got to come back through the bar to see that it was that like anybody showed up at 5:30. And I ran into Andrew probably about 5:25, and I said, "Oh shit, I gotta go." I showed him the thing, and he's like, "We've got to go." There was nobody there. Nobody fucking showed up. It was nobody gave a shit that poor David Frum was sitting there nursing whatever. I mean, he obviously had some like intern or something set this thing up.
Yeah.
So it was like him and this low-level pseudo staffer.
Oh,
I don't even think he was
fantastic.
at the Atlantic at the time. I don't know what he was doing, but nobody gave a shit, and we had a very, very good time
drinking Frum's
happy hour
free
for David
Zima.
Frum.
Oh, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think you would have had fun with the Never Trump split. I think you would have had a blast with it. Burn it all the hell down. Yeah.
Yeah,
our
I don't
war
like
on them
people
was
who
very
say-
much Andrew inspired.
Yeah.
I don't like when people say like he would do this or he would. I was friends with Christopher Hitchens. I was lucky enough to be friends with Hitchens before he died, and I see people all the time. Hitchens would say this. Hitchens, you don't know what Hitchens would say. Hitchens,
I agree.
You don't know what Andrew would say. You have a good idea, but you never really know. But whatever it was, whatever side of the issue he came down on, Andrew, he would have had a damn good reason for it. He would have had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I will. I absolutely right. And it bothers me also when I hear that Andrew would have said this. Andrew would say, I will say this though, especially during the Trump era, and you never know. The one thing he would have embraced is the attack on the media and the fact that Trump was able to expose the media. That is one thing that Andrew would have really, really appreciated and would continue to appreciate.
Yes, he would have.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen.
You're kicking
all right,
us
Gilby,
off,
get your wife out here.
I'm
Get
done
out
with
of
you
here,
people.
Kurt.
You're
I'm
throwing
done
us
with you.
away.
What the hell is on the wall behind you, Kurt? It looks like a whole bunch of giant.
It's art
for like a gigantic suit.
He married.
He's been here.
He married
you
a
need to come
Hispanic
out. Bring
woman.
Heather. Bring the kids. I won't infect them with anything this time.
It's a Latin
It's
thing.
too late.
Gary.
We owe you. We owe you. It looks like giant buttons. Like, let's get rid of these buttons. And then somebody left them in the sun and they kind of
Well,
melted
why don't
together.
you explain to Arena how her decor doesn't meet your exacting standards?
No, I
sit
don't want
back
to
and
piss off
watch.
Arena.
That should
I
be
don't want to piss
fun.
off Arena. I'm on my phone, so that's the only thing I could connect through. It's very small. So it just looks like giant buttons.
Wow, you're backpedaling.
But I'm sure
now.
it's wonderful.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to
Yeah,
go.
that's
very indigenous.
that's
Irina
good.
will
Save
kill me.
yourself.
Kurt, I can handle. Kurt, I can handle. Irina,
you
I don't
wanna-
want to.
She knows ways
I
to
want to cross arena.
Thank you, Derek
No.
Hunter. Great seeing you, my friend.
Thank you, Larry.
Hang in
See you
there.
later.
All right, Kurt, behave
All right,
yourself
Larry.
now.
I can't make that promise, but I miss Andrew an awful lot.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. But this was fun. He would have appreciated this. He would have joined.
He would have taken it over and had gone
Yes,
in some
he would have.
freaking bizarre
And
direction.
we all would have had to mute. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we just mute while we went, I got another thing. Kurt,
right,
come down to this protest down at Pershing Square. I'm wearing roller skates. Larry, Andrew, I'm in court. No, I don't care.
I'll see you later. Hang in there, brother.
Adios.
All right, bye. That's good stuff. All right. Yeah, Meredith is going to join us soon. Let's watch a little bit more video, and then we'll bring Meredith in here, and we'll get a little personal with our remembrances of him. Get outside of the movement stuff and more into the man stuff in a sec. But let's watch a little bit more here. Hang on. What do we got here? Oh, I did it wrong, didn't I? Dang it. I never know how to do it right. All right, let's make sure. Let's tell me if this audio is working. Oh no, the audio isn't working, really? Dang it. All right, hang on. Because this is too good. This is too good. Hold on. Now, why was it working before and it's not working now? Stand by. Let's do that. Let's do that and that. No, that. All right, let's try this. All right, audio? Yes, audio? No audio. Yes, audio? The audio was working before. All right, screw it. We don't need the audio. We've got Dake.
Hello.
Hello, dear.
Welcome to our kitchen.
People are going to think that we're not actually married. If we're not
No, we are in the
room.
same house. In fact, I might implore you to shut the door to your office because it's distracting me.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
The kitchen looks fantastic. Did you clean it up before we did this? That's impressive.
You know, it's strategic. The camera is strategically placed.
Hello.
Hi. Also, I'm on my phone and it's at 35%. So who knows what will happen?
Nah, it looks fantastic. And we have to wrap this up in about 10 or 15 anyway, because I have to wake up early in the morning.
Yes, that's correct.
For morning radio. I just brought, you probably heard me through my open door say that, we talked to Alex Marlowe, we talked to James O'Keefe, we talked to John Andrasik, we talked to Derek Hunter and Kurt Schlichter, and most of it was probably about what Andrew meant to the movement and to the media and about the business and everything that he was able to do. But he had a very personal impact on our lives as a human being, well beyond all of that. First of all, we would not be married. We would not be in love and together if it weren't for Andrew Breitbart.
That's true.
Let's start with that.
And at the risk of saying this is what Andrew would think, I do know that he would be absolutely gonzo about the fact that we got married.
Yeah.
He would love it.
It would freak him out at first. Because he treated you like a little sister.
In some ways, trying to think about what Andrew would have acted like at my wedding is really strange. And I'm like, maybe everything happens for a reason. Like,
No. You were raised in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And you worked in Oklahoma your whole career, and you worked in politics in the state house, and you worked for a healthcare company, and you had media experience through your church, like big time media experience. And all of those connections sort of, and you were very savvy with the internet. All those connections sort of, it's a long story and I don't want to tell all the details, but it landed you eventually as an employee of Andrew Breitbart. He hired you. I remember
That's
the
right.
I
And
remember
like
the day
many
he hired.
employees of Andrew Breitbart, I wrote for him for free for many months.
Same here. Same here.
And worked on the site for free for many months.
We discussed that. Yes, yes.
Yes, I heard you. And so yes, I was one of those as well. And I mean, yeah, I worked a lot on the website before
I guess my point is, and with your job, you ended up traveling quite a bit, but you ended up in LA, in Andrew's orbit there in Los Angeles for long periods of time,
right,
or in DC, and
so
that
the first
had to
time,
be culture shock.
So the first time I met Andrew was on UCLA campus, right? It was at UCLA, and what was it? Josh Brolin.
It was Josh, whoever played what's his
Thanos.
name? Thanos, yeah, the actor who played Thanos.
So he was doing some sort of dramatic reading of the People's
The People's History of America. No, they were
the People's History of the United States. That's what it was.
Right,
by Howard Zinn, and we had done these long exposés on Breitbart. I say we, it was before I got there, but long educational exposés on Breitbart about how like horrible these were. They were not based in fact. Like even the left was calling out Howard Zinn on how like anti-historical these fictional accounts were that he was presenting as actual history. For instance, in one of Howard Zinn's books, and this is relevant, this is why I'm telling it.
Yes.
In one of Howard Zinn's books, he like lists a speech that Muhammad Ali gave, and it's some sort of like revolutionary Marxist speech. And a person of the left on I can't even remember what it's called now, but some super insane Marxist channel that's only on the internet was interviewing him, and they said, I was reading over the speech. The thing about this is it never actually happened, did it? And he was like, that's correct. But if the political forces weren't as they were in, marginalizing him as an individual, this is the speech he would have given. So it is history. And it's like insane, right? So UCLA was sort of embracing this, and they had Josh Brolin there to do this really great dramatic reading of some fictionalized history. And so Andrew and Adam Baldwin and Larry Solov, who I did not know at the time, and my sister and I showed up with you on UCLA campus, and we were going to be planted students in the audience to ask questions that Andrew and the gang was going to feed to us.
Yeah.
And Baldwin was there incognito, and Solov was there stressed out as usual about what Andrew was going to do. And Andrew was chomping at the bit. And Jacqueline and I were just kind of sitting in the audience, my sister, Jackie Greggs, and I were just sitting in the audience being students. And so we were waiting for kind of the high sign and like what they were going to tell us, and we had all these text messages and stuff to arrange.
Right, we were all coordinating. It was like this whole spy operation.
Right,
and you guys were dressed as college students, and you were going to go to the mic to ask the question.
Right, and then Andrew just decided, to get in line.
He sort of went rogue. He went rogue. The next thing we know, Breitbart standing in the middle of the line at the open mic. It's like, dude, no one believes you're a college student.
And I just remembered Larry Solov was sitting directly behind me. I remember this so vividly. And I remember Jacqueline and I were sort of looking at each other, and we were like, that's Andrew in line. Andrew's in line. And I could just hear Larry Solov's like labored breathing behind me. And that was pretty much the introduction and a really real representation of my Breitbart experience.
It was. And by the way, yeah, exactly. We have all these plans, and then, just follow Andrew's lead. We'll do what Andrew says. And by the way, if you remember, He's waiting in line. It's an open mic. It's an open mic. He's next in line.
And then they stop questions.
That's the end of our presentation.
Yeah.
That's the end of our questioning. And they just cut it off.
So he ended up interviewing somebody in the lobby. I can't remember who it was.
The director. It may have been. Was it Adam McKay? Was the director? Whatever the director was. It was a documentary on Howard Zinn for the History Channel. You still have the T-shirt. They gave away those.
I do. I still have that T-shirt, and I will never. I will never ever get rid of it. But
and it still fits. It looks beautiful on you, by the way. Go put that shirt on. That's a great shirt. Go get that shirt. I love that shirt.
No.
All right.
So I mean that was my introduction to Breitbart, and from then on I was totally hooked.
Remember when it may have been CPAC or something else, and see you are a Midwestern Southern Baptist.
Yes.
And Andrew and most of the people who worked for the company were not. We were.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was the only one, actually.
we were all from LA or DC, and we were a different cultural. We had a different cultural background. So,
yeah. I mean, I guess Dana was from the Midwest, but she had enough LA in her that she could blend right in.
Yeah, she's a bit of
I was definitely the odd man out, for sure.
You immediately became Andrew's sort of touchstone for that sort of
yes.
setup. He would often ask you, right?
Yeah, I was absolutely the little old church lady thermometer. So anytime that he would ever cuss on a speech or in a video, he would replay that moment for me multiple times, depending on how much wine had been consumed, or margaritas, which was also a favorite of his, margaritas on the rocks.
Yeah.
And he would give like a vibe check with me, like, is this okay?
Yeah.
Is this okay?
It's like, what did Christian women think of me? Do I offend them? Is this offensive to them?
And he would constantly ask me that. He would do something insanely, even in the office and stuff, as he would do things insanely irreverent. And then he would look at me for like a vibe check to make sure he hadn't gone too far for me.
Right. Was that okay? Yeah. By the way, I still do that with you to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Many years into our marriage.
But he would absolutely cross some lines, or at least think he had crossed some lines, and then he would sort of stop and look at me like, "Are we good? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Do I need to apologize for something?" And it was hilarious.
You were also, I think, instrumental sometimes in him getting a haircut and shaving.
Yeah.
Because he would let it go. He would sort of like, he'd get a haircut and shave and then not do anything for like 6 months.
That seemed to be his mode for sure. And so sometimes he, again, would come to me for a vibe check, or especially when I was working in earnest on Breitbart TV, he would sometimes just ask, he wasn't necessarily asking your opinion. He was, in some ways, I think especially with me, he was sort of checking that I understood the importance of a video or a clip, and he'd be like, "What do you think of this?"
Yeah.
And he was sort of like testing me sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was an editor. Absolutely.
He was an editor, and he wanted to make sure that I understood the significance of clips, or I could pick out the most important things in a story. And so sometimes he would review some of his hits with me, and I'm not gonna pretend like this happened all the time, but it definitely happened. And or I would just spontaneously say, "Andrew, you look like a bear in this clip. Look at you in this little window on, Red Eye.
You look like that giant Muppet, like a big Muppet thing." Yeah. But I kid you not, guy. And then the next day he would come in and he was like, he just like he just got recruited for the Marines. He would totally cut it all off. He took
Yeah.
about that stuff.
I think it was very funny, but he would like, he had the COVID look, with like the whole straggly thing, like now everybody like came out of quarantine or whatever, or lockdown, like their hair's long and their beards are all grown out. And like, he did that way before it was cool.
Right.
And then I think he would just get sick of it and shave it, but it would sometimes be pegged to whenever I would look at him and say, Andrew, you look like a bear.
What, I'm lucky to have you in many ways. I am lucky to have you, but I'm really lucky to have you at times where, I get sad a lot when I think of Andrew, as you know. And I'm so lucky that we went through all of that together.
Yeah.
We were together the day he died. We left the office together the night before. We both saw him last about 5 hours before he passed. We saw him together, and we saw each other that next morning, and all through the funeral and everything. And there's no one else who will ever understand everything we went through there. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess.
Well, I'll tell you. Speaking of that, one of the best stories that I have is my last interaction with Andrew, and that is there was a sort of a loft and then a pit in our office. There was like this big loft, and that's where all the desks were, and then there was sort of like this scrum pit in the middle of the office on the lower story. And we would often work down there on beanbags. We didn't work up in the desks because that's just who we were. Although I was afraid to touch anything in that office because of its past.
Well, it used to be an adult entertainment.
It was an adult entertainment studio. There was a green screen in the corner.
Hold on, they didn't actually produce.
All the surfaces were whiteboard.
Yes, but
so you could write and erase on it, just wrong.
Okay, hold on. It was the production office. They didn't actually perform anything there in the studio.
There was a green screen corner. You're telling me nothing was performed there? Anyway,
yes,
I don't want.
Porn is not done before a green screen, I'm told.
Well, anyway, there was a ping pong table in that corner when we were there. And I would never go over to it. I would never play because I was too scared. But
because you were afraid of what happened on the ping pong table.
Yes. I didn't know where that ping pong table came from, and my editors were cheap. They did not buy a ping pong table for our office. I'm pretty sure it was left over.
We did. We inherited that. That's true.
Yes,
That's true.
See, I knew it. I knew they inherited it, and I was like, nope, I'm not touching that. Anyway, I refused.
Anyway, so we're all down on the beanbags.
So we were leaving. And we had to take headshots for the new website. Okay. And a lot of people don't remember that the website was relaunched right after Andrew's death. Right. And that whole week or kind of month before Andrew's death, we were all together in preparation for the launch of the new website.
Yeah, and in fact, if I can jump in there, it's amazing actually sort of God's hand in all of this, because we all worked at, John worked in North Carolina, Dana worked in St. Louis. Flynn worked in DC. A bunch of people worked in DC. We were all spread out, but because we were relaunching the site, we were all learning the new back end of the system and the content management system. And Dake worked in Oklahoma, but we all were in LA for the 2 weeks leading up to Andrew's death. I think John and Dana had already gone home.
Yeah. All the editors except for us had gone home.
I think Mike was still there. I think.
Was Mike there? I don't remember. He might have been.
But we all happened to be we were never together, but we all happened to be together, and we were all able to be together for those 2 weeks.
Which is really neat.
Yeah. Okay. So
really neat that everybody got to see him right before, but we're walking out, and so we had to take new headshots, and that was my job. And I yelled up to Andrew as he was doing something, Andrew, tomorrow we're going to take your headshot, okay? In other words, please try to not look like a bear. And so I was giving him a heads up that he needed to not look like a bear, and he ignored me. He totally ignored me.
Yeah.
And then you said, Andrew, we're leaving. Goodbye. He goes, bye.
Yeah. That wasn't the last time, though. That wasn't the last day.
Yeah, that was.
No, no. Well, was that really?
It was. It was 100% the last day.
Well, I remember. Okay, you're right. That was as we were all going out. You're right. He just gave us a bye like that.
Yeah.
When we were gathering our stuff and heading out, he was coming in from something.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember him going up the stairs to get to his desk. And I said, hey, Andrew, how are you? And he goes, under fire. That was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was, I mean, he had to get to his desk to tweet something because he was under fire.
Hence why he was ignoring me.
For some reason, under fire was always the thing that resonated with me as the last thing he said to me. But you're absolutely right. It was, hey, Andrew, how are you? Under fire. And he's going up the stairs. And you're like, Andrew, we're doing the headshots tomorrow. Da, 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 da. And he says nothing. And then he gets to his desk and he starts to tweet something. I go, Andrew, we're leaving. Bye.
Yeah.
And then that was that.
That was that.
And then that was that. And then that was that.
Well, I think I've been reflecting a lot on this of sort of the idea in media of having a tough skin, but keeping a tender heart. And I think Andrew was so great at that because he never became callous. No matter how much he got under fire, no matter how much of a tough skin he really developed and was able to let things roll off. He always cared, and everything always mattered to him, and he really did maintain that tender heart. There's a reason why I loved when you and Alex were talking earlier about the outtakes of citizen journalism that Andrew would bring in, and it's like there is a reason why he would interview the homeless man outside of Zanku Chicken and bring it in as if it's the next banner on Drudge.
This is
and
huge. It's a game changer.
Yeah, and it was because of his tender heart, and he loved people. Yeah. And I don't think people who see all of his most acerbic or assertive quips get that full picture. But you don't get that full Andrew without recognizing like how much he loved people. And he would talk to anyone. We can attest to this because it took forever to get anywhere, regardless of where we were.
Yeah.
Not just talking about like a conference where a bunch of people loved him, but even in places where nobody knew who he was. He would talk.
He would still, we'd be walking, and it's like, wait a minute, what happened to Andrew? And he'd be back there he'd
be back there finding a new homeless person to talk to or whatever. I mean, he would talk to anyone. He would talk to strangers, incredibly generous with his time. And that just comes from his big heart and his lovely nature towards people, which is why he's so missed. And what you're not going to hear is a lot of stories like you have from some media figures or typical media figures where they're just total jerks behind the scenes. And the people who worked for them did not like working for them, or they had a terrible work environment. I'm not saying there weren't challenging times. And there were challenges, and you and Alex touched on that. But you always knew it came from a place of big-hearted love and care.
Yep. Well, thank you for helping me out whenever I get melancholy about him.
We think about him probably every day, and we probably talk about him at least once a week.
Well, we have a homage to him right across from where you're sitting.
That's true. Right over there, where all of our bottles of wine are.
We have a whole montage of pictures of Andrew so he's always looking at us, and hopefully we helped you through this sad day today, 10 years on. But it shouldn't be a sad day. We should be pretty happy that we had Andrew in our lives, and we are happy for the time that we had with him, and I think we should leave it at that. because we've taken 2 hours and 10 minutes of everybody's time. You guys, thank you for being here tonight, on and off throughout the evening, and thanks for all the great comments. And we're gonna post this as a 2-hour video, but we're also gonna break out everybody's little moment, and those will be separate videos too. And if you want to share them and post them, that would be great, because the more people that know the story of Andrew, and we keep his memory and his name alive, well beyond just a name on a website. He was a man, pretty amazing man, and the more you can do, the better. So thank you. Thanks in advance for sharing all this stuff. And we're out of here. Let's do one more video. Hopefully it'll work. Although this video, frankly, you don't necessarily need the music for, but hopefully the audio will work on it.
One spirit, one voice, sound one way. With you, helping each other make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of. This is the sound of voices three. Singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of all of us, singing with